new leader, 48.
Nice work, boys.
For the 8th time in his career, Jimmie Johnson has picked up the win.
To say that Jimmie Johnson has made short work of NASCAR's shortest track would be an understatement. The numbers are staggering. 8 wins, 20 top 10s, and over 2,300 laps led during his career.
Once you figure out how to drive this track, you've got it, and it's in your back pocket, and you can continue to come back and do the same thing and work here. The other part that works in my favor is that regardless of car, the speeds are so low, it doesn't matter what the body looks like or the new generation car that we have, is we're not going fast enough to have the aerodynamics come into play. So really, old school short track racing is what this is about, and I figured out the track, and I continue to come back and have us in the ball game.
Johnson's good at Martinsville anytime, but when it comes to the chase, the numbers become simply unimaginable. Over the course of the 9 Martinsville chase races, Johnson has 5 wins, 2 seconds, a 3rd, and a 5th. That's an average chase race finish at Martinsville of 2nd. If the competition hopes to maintain contact with the 48 this weekend, they better find a way to finish in the top 5.
They're going to have to take some chances, whether it's 2 tires or no tires, or just really fast pit stop, because I don't think you're going to outrun Jimmie there. He's just got a fast car. He knows how to get around that racetrack really well. So you're going to have to take some chances that you normally don't take, because you need the track position in Martinsville. It's very hard to pass.
Rusty Wallace certainly knows what he's talking about when it comes to short track racing. During his Hall of Fame career, he won 25 times on tracks less than a mile. So, how does he explain Johnson's Martinsville dominance?
It's pretty easy to explain why Jimmie's so dominant in Martinsville, Virginia. He really knows what he wants out of his car, and he stays working on his car in practice until he gets that feeling. He knows that the exit of turn 2 is so important, he can't spin a tire. He knows it the same thing off of turn 4 also. So between turn 2 and turn 4, he's working really hard to get his car to do what Jimmie wants it to do. And remember one thing, he's got a bigger notebook, so to speak, than the rest of them. Because he's always so good there, he can just rub on that car and just perfect everything. Jimmie's probably going to win again this weekend because he's got that big notebook.
Yes, boys, yes. Well done, my friend, well done.
Jimmie Johnson trails Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip for the most Cup wins at Martinsville, but he's arguably been the best driver to ever compete there. He's won over 1/3 of his starts, a much higher percentage than both Petty and Waltrip, and his average finish is nearly 6 places better than either. For some perspective on Johnson's dominance at Martinsville, we welcome in a couple of racing historians, our own Ryan McGee and Martinsville track president Clay Campbell. Thanks for being with us, gentlemen. Clay, we'll start with you. You've seen a lot of races at your track and a lot of great champions. Where do you rank Jimmie Johnson?
Well, obviously he doesn't have the amount of wins that Richard Petty does, but in today's era, you got to rank him near the top. I mean, it's just unreal the success he and Hendrick Motorsports have had here at Martinsville Speedway.
Ryan, we know that you're a big Richard Petty guy. Only the King and another Hall of Famer, Darrell Waltrip, have won more Martinsville races than Jimmie. You heard Rusty Wallace talk about it. What does Jimmie Johnson have at Martinsville that perhaps other drivers just don't?
Well, in fact, we had Clay, Marty Smith and I had Clay on our Marty and McGee podcast earlier in the week, and yeah, I get a little sensitive when I talk about somebody being better than Richard Petty. When I was a kid, every time Richard Petty went to Martinsville, he won the race. When I was a little bit older, every time Darrell Waltrip went to Martinsville, he won the race. Then it was Rusty Wallace, and now it's Jimmie Johnson. But when you look at the career numbers and the success he's had in a relatively short period of time, I can't ever think, with the exception of Richard Petty, of a decade where every time a guy went to a racetrack, you knew he had it. But what it tells you about him is this isn't about equipment, it isn't about brakes, it isn't about your team. It's about the race car driver at Martinsville. And anybody that wants to argue that other stuff about that's why Jimmie Johnson's won 5 championships, when you go to Martinsville and have success, no, that means you can drive a race car. It doesn't matter what team you're with.
Well, he certainly can drive a race car, Clay. The numbers seem to point to the fact that those drivers who are now chasing Johnson might have to finish in the top 5 to stay in touch with Johnson on Sunday. Do you think that will happen? Well, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, obviously when you come here, everybody's shooting towards Jimmie because you know he's going to be at the front. But the success he's had here is still, you've got 42 other guys that want to change that success. And you've got guys that run well here that haven't done quite so well at other places. You got a lot of guys that can actually get the job done here, but still they got to knock Jimmie off to do it.